Welcome, everyone, to Courageous Creative Conquerors. This is Jean Voice Dart. It's my belief that everyone has a gift of creative expression. We were born to express ourselves to stay healthy and happy. Whether you are planting a garden, writing a story, building a cabinet, sewing a scarf, or singing a song, what matters is expressing from the heart. And the creative and expressive arts are a healthy coping strategy that shifts us from trauma to triumph. So join me as we listen and learn key tips and techniques from our special guest and courageous creative conqueror. My special guest today is Tamara Chiwansi, author, creative writer, and coach. And my special guest today is Tamara Chiwansi from Texas. Hi there, Tamara.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fabulous, and so are you, and I'm just so glad to have you here to share about your creative journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we have some photos that we're going to go through, and we're going to hear more from you about how you succeed creatively and what's happening in your life.
Okay.
Okay, so let's take a look at some photos here. Okay, here we are with this first photo with JVR and Adrian. And tell me about your two boys here.
Javier is 24 and he is in college at the University of Houston, U of H, and he's studying to be a band director. Adrian is 20, and Adrian is autistic, but he's on a higher level. That means that he's verbal. He does a lot of things. He works. Um, he drives. He's very cognitive, but not on his he's not cognitive on his age level.
So you have two creative and talented sons you're just so blessed with. And
Yes.
we're going to move on. That's not the end of your children here. You have more to share.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And who is this? This is Roger. Tell me about Roger. He's dressed up
Ro-
like a baseball player there.
yes, Roger is 23. He's also in college near the Waco area in Texas. And as you can see, he's a baseball player that
Yeah.
he's been playing since he was 3 years old.
Yeah. And I'm sure your children are your pride and joy here. They all have their special, unique talents. Yeah.
Yes.
So he's a baseball player. And you have one more photo here. And this is Nikki with it looks like she just graduated from high school. Is that right?
Yes, Nikki is 19. She's not in college, but she does work and she's an artist. She draws, she paints, and she's now dabbling in trying to be a tattoo artist.
Oh my goodness. So you do have a lot of creative children and creativity in your family. And let's talk about that. Let's pop out for a second here. Tell me, when you were growing up as a child, was there someone in your family that inspired you or applauded you for your creative efforts? And how were you creative as a child?
Yes, it was my grandmother and my aunt. They both were seamstress. They sewed, and I can remember as a young kid like sewing dresses and clothes for my Barbie dolls. That's where my creativity um with the seamstress started and
Uh-huh.
ended, and then I began to write.
So, how would you categorize yourself? I know I don't like that word because we are everything. We're multidimensional, but would you say you are a writer? Who are you?
I'm a writer. I'm a
Yeah.
writer, and my aunt, who's also a seamstress, she was a writer also.
Oh,
She didn't have anything published, but she wrote, she journaled, and that's where I began to write.
yeah. And she recognized that in you?
Yes,
She did.
yes,
And
she did.
what kind of writing do you do?
I do informative writing. I write mostly towards inspiring and motivating women, but it can also motivate people in general. But my main focus is women. And I also write to inform parents who have children with disabilities. In the
Fabulous. Okay. Yeah, I'm a big advocate of that and all of that. And I love looking at your page and your inspirational little tips and quotes and writings. And behind me, there's this big banner that says Courageous Creative Conquerors. It sounds like you are. And can you tell me, how do you define that courageously creative? What does that mean to you?
courageously creative to me is to just step out and do it. I was in fear um a lot when I first started writing. I felt like I had been through so much and I wasn't qualified to write or tell people my story. But the more people that I talked to, the more women that I talked to, I understood that they needed to hear it. And so I began writing about that first so I can get that out to more women to know that they weren't alone in what they were going through.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And you said you've been through so much. Can you share? I mean, you don't have to go into gory details, but we've all had our traumas and challenges and life journeys. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you overcame that to be a courageous, creative conqueror?
Yes, I was married for 14 years and it ended in divorce. Well, we separated amicably, but it was a lot going on there. It was a lot of things that happened in front of the kids. No physical abuse, but verbal, emotional, and it kind of carried over to to the children. And I was in another relationship after that first marriage,
Uh-huh.
and it was pretty much the same. I think I was in a pattern by then, and a lot of things that I dealt with, I just felt them as normal because growing up as a child, I seen those things. So I like to tell people that I had learned to function very well in my dysfunction. And it was at a point that I was at my lowest that I realized that that wasn't who I was meant to be, and I didn't deserve any of that. So that's when I started coming out of the situation and I was in, and that's when I began to write more and more and more because it was my outlet, and that is how I began to overcome those challenges and begin to repair myself mentally.
How long ago was that when you shifted and you started to come out and write? And
It
when?
was I've been writing. I started writing in 2014.
Uh-huh.
And what I wrote was I ended that relationship and I began writing. I have a binder and I just began writing on notebook paper letters to my future husband. And I would tell him everything that I would go through that day. And I would, tell him what kind of issues I had. And I wrote to him what kind of person I would like him to be. And that binder filled up very fast in 2 years. And within
Yeah.
those 2 years, I learned who I was. I learned who I was, and I began to heal.
Amazing. Yeah. Journaling is just such a powerful tool and a safe tool for helping us manage stress. And it's a great tool for coping strategies, healthy coping strategy. Yeah. So that's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that part of your journey. And so, right now, Where are you in your life?
Yes. Right now I'm married again, happily. This time I still write. My husband is a huge encourager of anything that I do. He's encouraged me to even, step out and change careers. He's behind me 100%. He
Yeah.
really encouraged, even when I'm in fear, he always encouraged me to, just take that step. And he's right there when, if I fall, I fall, I just get back up. But he's right there to encourage me,
Yeah.
take that step. If you fall, I'm just there to help you right back up.
Wow, that's great. You have him behind you and beside you. Speak of the man, there he is. Oh, that's the proposal. Tell us about Daniel. How did you meet
I
Daniel?
met Daniel through a mutual friend. Uh, my friend, well, it was a co-worker. She's a friend. I met him through her and her husband, and he was at the time in Nigeria. So we began talking online, and that's how I met him. And that was in 2017. And our bond became real strong real fast. And I flew there maybe a year later, and we were married. And we've been married since.
Yeah. Oh wow. That that's a beautiful location. Where is that?
That is in a state called Enugu in Nigeria.
Uh-huh.
And
So
that's where we took
pretty.
it at. Yes.
On a lake there?
Yes, it's called Nikki Lake, and that's where it was at a resort.
Yeah, lovely. And here's another picture from in Nigeria. Tell us about this.
That is a picture when I went there. When I landed in a big city of Abuja. That's the capital. And from there, I went straight to Enugu, which was his hometown. But on in transit there, we stopped at several places, and that was at a market. And it was humbling. It was very humbling. The people were so friendly, but that is how they made their living. My experience there was very, very humbling. They don't have lights all the time. They may have lights maybe 3 to 4 hours a day. They don't always have running water. You would see people drinking out of streams, and the weather was very hot. I took a lot of things for granted here, and when I got there, I didn't have those things. And like I said, it was a culture shock, but it was very humbling.
Who is this? Your sister Amy. Tell me about Amy.
So Amy, I have been knowing Amy for years, and 2 years ago, no, yes, I think 20, 20, 2020, 2021, right after the pandemic. We were such close friends, and we were reading in the Bible that people were adopted into families. So she was like, well, if you can adopt, parents could adopt little kids, why can't we adopt each other as sisters? And I'm like, you know what? That's a pretty good idea. So that's what we did. We adopted each other as sisters, and we got it notarized, and we have it hanging on our wall. So we're official. She's my other support system.
I love it. I love it. Look at that joy right there, the two of you. That's wonderful. Okay, and then we have this picture here. Is this one of your students?
Kennedy was my first student when I first started teaching special ed. She was one of the um first group of kids that I had. Me and her parents became really good friends, and we're still friends to this day. I've termed her my niece, but Kennedy, she taught me a lot, and so did the other kids in that class. That you can learn, even as adults, you can learn from a child, but you can learn from anyone if you keep your mind open. I had a student who was nonverbal, and I didn't think that I can communicate with this young lady at first, but I did. That young lady taught me so much, and every day I learned how to communicate better from her. I learned how to listen. And surprisingly, it improved me and my husband's relationship because instead of me always trying to talk and talk and talk, I began to listen because in that classroom, I had to just stop and really pay attention because she couldn't speak. So I had to really
Mhm.
pay attention to her. So that class and that young lady taught me a lot.
That's great. We have that in common. I was a special ed teacher as well. Yeah. Now you do learn so much, so much. So I want you to tell me about what you're doing right now with marriage and family services as a coach and how that evolved, and tell us a little bit about that.
So I am a marriage and family coach, and it started because when my son was first diagnosed with autism at 4, he went into the school system, and it was a lot of things that I didn't know. I felt guilty. The school wasn't helping a lot, so I began to research and find out things that can help me advocate for my son through in the education system. So while doing this, I found that other parents were having problems too. They were having a few issues too. Some of them when their kids were first diagnosed, they were feeling guilty. Some of the parents they had split decisions on how to raise the child or whether to discipline the child or not. So it was a lot going on there. So out of me advocating for children, I learned that parents couldn't advocate properly if they weren't at their best. So that's when I began to coach marriages, because if the marriage is strong and the parents are strong, then it's going to trickle down to the kids. So that's how I got started in that.
Hmm. Yeah. And what would you say is your biggest takeaway from all that, from doing that?
My biggest takeaway is that everybody's situation is different. Everybody parents different, and you can't go into a situation or talk to people just immediately telling them how to parent their kids. And that's what I can take away from that, because at first I knew what worked for me, but as I started coaching other parents, I found out what worked for them. So my
Oh,
biggest
that's great.
takeaway is everybody is different. And even the some of the people that I coached, they even taught me some things because I didn't know it all. So my biggest takeaway again is to listen, be very attentive. That way I might learn something that I didn't know, even though I'm the one that's giving instruction.
Yeah, that's so true. Listening to others, and to kind of put yourself in their position and uh, support what is best for them rather than trying to, oh yeah, here's what works for me. Just really listening
Yeah.
and being an advocate, and helping them plan their own journey and their own purpose. Yeah, that's great. So I was wondering if you could share some tips for our listeners about how to overcome blocks and barriers that they might have. We've got a lot of creative people out there. You say you're a writer, and are you a published writer and author?
I'm not published yet.
Yeah. So what are your plans with that?
I am working on a book now.
Mhm.
Actually two. One of them is Better Lives for Christian Wives. I'm working on that one. And the other one is a child's book called The Boy with the Blank Stare. And
Ooh, okay.
currently I'm working on a ebook that will be out on July the 1st.
Wow. Okay.
And
Okay.
it's called
So
it's
here,
I'm sorry.
go ahead. Go ahead. The name of it?
It's the name of it is Stripping the Labels Off, because we get attached, or we let people attach labels to us that don't fit us or that we don't deserve, and we get
Yeah.
stuck in those labels, and we those labels can sometimes give us a negative mindset. So that book is about stripping the labels off and being the authentic you.
Yeah, yeah, wonderful. Well, look at you shining there with all that you're doing. So that's what I wanted to ask you. So you're motivated. you're persevering, you have your passion and purpose, and you're driving it home. You're going to be publishing, and very soon, July, an ebook. So give some tips maybe that helps you when you get stuck, or maybe you wake up in the morning and you feel overwhelmed and you had a goal to write that day. And how do you break through that and be creative?
If I wake up in the morning and I'm stuck, I have learned to just give myself a break because I can't do anything overwhelmed. You can't do anything overwhelmed. If you feel forced, then it's not going to come naturally. So if I get up that morning and I'm feeling overwhelmed, or if I'm just not having a bad day, I take a break. Or if I'm blocked, I love listening to music. I love just dancing around. I have an open space so I can dance. I dance around, and or sometimes I just go sit by the water. It don't have to be the beach. It don't have to be the beach. It could just be a small lake, or just go sit in nature. You can sit in your backyard, on your patio. I even sit in my car sometimes. And
Yeah.
it's just to get away from everything that's going on. Just step away to yourself, and
Yeah.
that's how I get rid of those blocks. And I also keep a notepad by my nightstand, just in case I wake up in the middle of the night with a thought. That book is there.
Those are all wonderful tips. And so often we have people come on here and they say nature, art, music, dance, just trying a different creative flow. It's all about flow. So if we're blocked, we have to flow. And maybe it's sports, maybe it's just going in the kitchen and baking something or doing something, but getting that flow. And like you say, just taking a break, shifting the environment, watching other people watching other people in flow, that,
Yes.
yeah, that does it for me sometimes. And I love what you said about, writing some things down. Maybe I go out shopping or go somewhere, take a little notepad with me. And often when I just stop trying, like you said, stop trying, something pops in my inner vision, something, some word or something. I feel like God's giving me some vision, something, and I just write that down and go about what I'm doing and come back. Oh, wow, yeah, okay, now I get it, what I'm supposed to do. So, yeah,
Yes.
thank you for sharing all those. Yeah, I appreciate it. So, what would you like to end with today? Is there something else that's burning within you that you want to share to our listeners who are courageous, creative conquerors?
Yes. We are all creative. And even if you have been through things in your past where you feel like they're holding you back, or even if you're going through something now, always know that you're capable. You're capable of doing anything. Just because you're in a situation, that situation does not define you. Your past does not define you. You are still creative, and don't let anyone tell you that because you're going through something that you're not that creative person that you are.
Thank you for those encouraging words. And it's just been so great to have you here.
I really
Okay.
appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, well, thank you. You're just a delightful person to chat with. I enjoyed it very much.
Thank you.
If there's anything I can do to support you in the future, you let me know, okay?
Okay, thank you, Jean.
And we are so grateful for all of you showing up and supporting, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye. To see more Courageous Creative Conquerors videos, join the weekly Creative Community calls, or learn more about private sessions, visit jeanvoicedart.com.